Setup. You are my consultants, and you are prospective caregivers. And I'm going to ask you to focus your attention that way. So this morning, we are going to be introducing a program on how to become a compassionate caregiver, guide, and advocate. Oops. So why are you here? Or you could be asking yourself the question, why am I here? You're here to do two things if you choose to join this organization. One, we're going to change the paradigm of caregiving. Paradigm, a pattern, a way of doing business. And secondly, you're going to learn how to become a caregiver, guide, and advocate. As I say, death is not a problem to fix. So what we're going to cover today is, first of all, what is a caregiver? What's a caregiver guide, an advocate? And then we're going to talk about how one goes about accomplishing the paradigm shift and then becoming a caregiver. So, a caregiver essentially is a compassionate listener. Now, a caregiver guide is one who's a compassionate giver, listener, and guides people along the path of caregiving, which could be very short if the person is imminently going to die, or it could be years. An advocate is one who speaks on behalf of another, because often the caregiver is going to be responsible for a person who's no longer capable of making decisions for themselves. So they need an advocate. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to shift, or what the shift in the paradigm is. So here's the conventional view. The conventional view, first of all, is death is a problem to fix. Do whatever it takes to prolong life, and essentially, my doctor knows best. Now, most of you, when you go to the doctor, particularly if you're in my age group, basically the baby boomers, if the doctor said jump, you said how high. And you basically didn't question what the doctor said. Now, most of us in this room, I think, are not of that ilk. I think most of us have come to the conclusion that the doctor doesn't always know best. That there are things, because the doctor is a human being, he's not God, though some doctors may believe they are. They act that way sometimes. But they also, when push comes to shove, they realize they don't know everything. They may not admit it to you, but when they get up in the morning, they have the same doubts and fears. Am I really treating my patient the best way? At least I hope they have that idea. And unfortunately, the way our healthcare system is set up, it seems to do whatever it takes to prolong life, regardless of the cost, regardless of the quality of life of the patient. So we want to move away from this view to a more compassionate view, which I call the compassionate caregiver view of caregiving. And I start from the premise that death is not a problem to fix. If you're a believer, even Jesus Christ died, and then he rose. So everyone who comes into this human form is going to die. It's not a problem. It's just the reality of who we are as human beings. So if we look at death as a problem to fix, then there's a whole different way of approaching it. But if death is not a problem, but it's just a part of life, then you can begin to relate to the person who's dying. And as a caregiver, you're the responsible party for seeing that person is being cared for. You could relate differently. In fact, you could start to plan and say, the person is going to die. So why don't you consult with the person and ask them, how do you want to die? Do you want to die at home? Do you want every extraordinary means in the world to be used to preserve your life? But you have to have that conversation. You can't assume, nor do you allow the doctors to dictate to you that that's the way it must be. Because, in this country at least, I still believe we have a choice. So go and create a plan. And that's what we're going to learn as caregiver guides and advocates, to create a plan so the person knows along the way what's going to happen from the beginning. Not at the end. You don't want to be in react mode. Oh my God, I got a disease, stage 4 breast cancer, or prostate cancer, or whatever. And you go, oh my God, what do we do? What do we do? And then you go to the doctor, you go to the experts, you go on the internet and you search and you go crazy. And you're in react mode. Well, maybe you could plan and say, okay, this is where the end, the person's going to die. How do you want to die? What treatment plans are available? What legal things I need to have in place? And plan it. So then when you are approached with that, you've thought about it. It's not a shock. It's just a part of life. Secondly, once you get into this process, and I've been there, I cared for my mother as she died, you get to the point where there is nothing to do. She had liver disease, and without a liver, one dies, usually within a year. So we know she's going to die. It's not a mystery. We just don't know exactly when. It's going to be 6 months, 10 months. So my job, and I highly recommend this to anyone who's in this role, is that you start looking at, make her life, the person you're caring for, joyful. Not happy. Happy is a reaction to outside circumstances. Joyful is recognizing that I'm alive, let me make the most of today. So as I put it, make a memory. Maybe have the person recall a happy memory, or create one in the present time. So they don't look at the world of their dying as being a world of misery. And as opposed to the doctor knows best, the caregiving team, because you need a team. This is not a solo practitioner process. You need to create a team to do this well. The caregiving team knows best, not the doctor. Okay, so that's the paradigm shift we want to create. Now, a couple of things about the program and how to do it. And we're not going to go into a lot of details today, but basically it's going to be a 6-week educational process on site, 3-week field supervision, followed by a 3-week certification program. And the details of that will come. Right, a few themes in the training program that are important. So why did I focus on compassion? Why don't I just call it the Caregiver program? I believe that the energy that moves a caregiver is compassion. And we're going to explain what compassion is and a little bit and develop that theme. Compassion also is going to be the attitude I'm going to challenge you to develop and live every moment that you're in that role. Because that's the attitude you need to bring to being a caregiver. And I feel that compassion is the bridge between the caregiver and the cared for, the person who you're caring for. And as I say, you can't care for another until you care for yourself first. It's being selfish if you don't care for yourself first. A couple of themes. I call it the Caregiver's Code, and we're going to talk about this in the training program in more detail. But you approach it with compassion, forgiveness of anything that happened in your own life, because until you forgive yourself, you're going to bring those attitudes into the way you're caring for your father or your mother. You may have had a bad relationship. So you got to approach it with forgiveness. You have to be patient. There's no rushing through this process. If you're not patient, get up, take a deep breath, and walk out, and then come back. And this is a hopeful process. It's not a process of gloom and doom. You have to eventually love yourself enough to want to heal yourself, as well as being the guide to healing another. As I said, a few themes I already talked about: emphasis on quality of life, elicit joyful memories. Think about leaving a legacy of joy, because those are going to be the seeds that are going to grow as you grieve the person that you may lose. Okay, so the essence of this program is caring for the caregiver. So I'm going to teach you how to become a caregiver so that you could then empower other caregivers. And now in our question and answer period, you can ask the questions, well, what's in it for me? So at this point, I'm opening the floor to questions. Matt, I know you're just brimming with questions. Oh, Linda.
Okay, my dad is caring for my mother. He's out in Arizona. All of us are here. How do I create that team for him?
Okay. First of all, you have to get, okay, the question and answer is a separate 5-minute period.
Love it.
How you create a team there is first getting everybody together and seeing who's available to be there. Do you have any siblings where no. So everybody is remote. Do you have the resources to be able to fly in on some siblings? Some of the siblings consider.
Yeah, we did that.
Okay. Then what you need to do is establish their caregivers. I call them really caretakers, the people who actually deliver the day-to-day experience. So Seniors Helping Seniors is an organization that does it. There's a lot of different organizations you could hire to provide the on-site care while you're not there. But your siblings are going to be the managers. Just as a manager doesn't do all the work and delegates, that's what you're going to need to do. Create a management team and then create people on site to do what you need to do. Other questions? Let me ask you a question. Has anybody ever created a care